This is the Truth Network.
The heart of every man craves a great adventure, but life doesn't usually feel that way. Jesus speaks of narrow gates and wide roads, but the masculine journey is filled with many twists and turns. So how do we keep from losing heart while trying to find the good way when life feels more like a losing battle than something worth dying for? Grab your gear and come on a quest with your band of brothers who will serve as the guides in what we call the masculine journey. The masculine journey starts here now.
Well, welcome to the Masculine Journey and welcome to a new year. It's already 2020. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, it's a brand new decade.
I
don't care what those other people say.
Yeah, I don't get the confusion.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
They never asked me.
No.
I would have set them straight.
I've never been involved in a poll either. I don't know who those people there are polled, but been hit with a couple polls.
It was they, them, and those
exactly,
that were asked.
Yeah, it wasn't me. Anyway, welcome to the Masculine Journey. We're going to be talking today about a topic that is something we could really talk about for a few weeks, and we actually might do that. Mm-hmm. It's the topic of initiation. And today specifically, we're going to talk about the importance of men initiating the young boys that are in their life, whether that be your sons, nephews, people that God brings you along with. It could be people in your Sunday school that you get involved in some of that initiation that God will help you do it. But before we do that, Darren, can you help us a little bit with, and I'm just throwing this question at you, so you may not be ready for it, but why do you think it's important that kids get initiated?
Well, because, if you look scripturally, there's a really good biblical precedence for this. You look at David, for instance, he goes out and he tends sheep, right? He's a shepherd of sheep. And you don't think of a shepherd of sheep as a small boy, but he was. And he fights off a lion and he fights off a bear, and that gives him the courage. He's initiated in those things to fight off a giant, which gives him the courage to lead other men, which gives him the ability to lead a nation of people, which, and all of those battles serve him well, even when seemingly the kingdom turns against him, and so forth and so on. Moses does the same things. There's lots of initiation in the Bible. Jesus is initiated. Jesus grows up as a small boy in a carpenter's workshop, but begins to be initiated by the rabbis and the teachers and his father, his mother, the other family members, and then even with God himself. The Father, when Jesus is baptized, God descends on him in the form of the Holy Spirit. And then God declares, "This is my boy. He's my beloved son. He's the apple of my eye. I love him. Listen to him. I'm well pleased with him." And then immediately sends him off into the desert for more initiation. And so if it's good for Jesus, it's got to be good for us.
Yeah, and I would think that as adults, if we could get the lens to see the troubles and the challenges we have as opportunities for initiation.
Instead of a problem. It would probably help us get through it. Yeah.
If we could turn to God and say, "God, what are you trying to initiate me through in this? What are you going to," not that he's bringing it on per se, but what are you going to help me grow out of this if I let you do that? Right? And let him initiate us, because that'll be a show that we do on that more than likely, is we'll talk about God initiating us. But, it is important that if you don't get that as a little boy, little girl, whatever, right? But if you don't get that as a little boy, you're not going to have the power you need as you face bigger challenges as life comes.
Which leads me to another idea on this whole thing of initiation. We're a group of men. There's, 6 of us sitting in the room right now. And we initiate each other. Mm-hmm. There are things which you have. Yesterday, you spent time with me looking over stuff that I was really unsure about with regard to I'm building a new home, and you have expertise in that. And literally by the time I talked to you about things and you left, I felt more initiated, literally, in making good decisions, good choices, and moving forward in my little journey on that regard. And so if you find yourself as a man listening to this, or a woman, and you've got a man in your life, a grown man in your life that needs some initiation, don't beat them up over that. Don't beat yourself up over that. Go find some good men, spend time with them who can help initiate you in the things that you are uninitiated in now.
Absolutely. And God often uses, thank you, each of us to do that with one another. And it's amazing to see him work in that.
I, until right now, had not even thought about how often my father was initiating me when I was growing up. And I had a great father, but we did Indian guides that had rituals in it of initiation. And that was at a young age. Scouts, and he went through all that with me. I've done that before. At least this one was water. Just spilled water all over the set.
Andy there a little bit.
Andy just got baptized.
I baptized Andy. But
Holy Spirit descends on me.
the Scouts was a big part of, and still is a big part of what I feel like I learned through that. He took me flying. He let me do everything except land the plane. Mm-hmm. And that was, from 7 or 8 up till 14 or 15. So that was a big part of my life, and it just hit me.
That's awesome. Thank you. I think I'm going to switch gears just a little bit here for a moment. Sometimes it's easier to understand what something is when you can see what it's not. And so this clip that we're going to play is from a movie called Animal House. And yes, we can play a clip from Animal House on Christian radio. It's just got to have the right context. And in this context, it's about initiation, and this is a fraternity, Robbie, right?
Yeah, you got 2 different fraternities, actually. You have the Deltas, which is the one John Belushi's in, and he's going to give these guys their new name, which is, quite comical when it comes to Flounder. But then the other group, which I actually forget the name of the other fraternity, whatever, they're going to really, play hardball, and, when I picture initiation, it's kind of what you think of.
I state your name.
I state your name.
Do hereby pledge allegiance to the frat.
Do hereby pledge allegiance to the frat.
With liberty and fraternity for all.
Amen.
Sergeant at Arms. Do your duty.
Now on, your Delta Tau Chi name is Weasel. From now on, your name is Mothball. Kroger, your Delta Tau Chi name is Pinto.
Why Pinto?
Why not?
What's my Delta Tau Chi name?
Dorfman, you've given this a lot of thought. From now on, your name is Flounder.
Flounder.
We now consecrate the bond of obedience. Assume the position.
Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Okay. I think I'd rather be in the first.
Yeah, I think,
the first fraternity.
Yeah, they give you a new name or everything. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, new name. It's got a lot of stuff we talk about.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, not quite the same context.
Kind of fits us, a little bit closer to the masculine
so
journey.
Flounder?
His wasn't the worst, and I think he got an upgrade from Dorfman.
Yeah, he might have. You're right. It could have been. I want to lay some context here for a minute, though. And apparently the word context is huge today for me. I'm not sure why, but in this, when a young boy, you don't start with initiation, right? You start with love, and that's important to know. You could initiate too early. You could initiate too much too early. Right, and so walking with God and walking with other men is critical in doing that. But the first and the foundation is always love. Because without the love, the initiation feels harsh. Right? You got to have that basis and that foundation of love to build on. And so if you haven't had the opportunity with the young men in your life, because we're talking about young boys, to really love on them, go do that. Right? Until they know without a doubt, nothing, without a question, that I'm loved. And then it's time to initiate. And that doesn't matter if they're 5 or if they're 50. right? And it's not a young boy at that point, but if you're talking about your sons, go love on them. That's the most important thing. And then you move into the initiation stage. One of the stories that I hadn't shared with you guys, probably in a long time, I know Darren's probably heard it, but when Caleb was growing up, my oldest son, he loved to work for money. I would give him extra chores and he would go earn money. He just really liked to do that. Well, I used to pay him hourly on some stuff, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to have him bid a job. Right? And he's like, what? And I'm like, well, if I pay you hourly, you could just take your time, right? I'm going to have you bid. You tell me what you think that job's worth.
Yep.
Right? And then we'll come to an agreement, and then you can go do the job. He's like, okay. And it was to clean all the leaves in the yard, which the boys were doing today, which is probably why I was thinking about it. And he gave me a price, and it was so terribly low. It was bad.
Yeah.
I'm like, he didn't even walk out and look at the job. I'm like, no, bud, you got to go look at the job. Go make sure you factor in your time. Nah, Dad, I can do it for $50 or whatever the number was. I'm like, all right. So he went out, and he worked out there about, I don't know, 3/4 of a day. And he came in, he's like, I'm going to need some more money. And I'm like, no, you bid that work, pal. We got a deal. You're going to do it. And I would not let him off of that.
Yeah, that's
good.
Until he got done with the job. And man, he was mad at me. And then I gave him more money. And then the next year when he came in and he wanted to bid, he gave me like a number that was way too high. Then I said I had to teach him, a free market enterprise. Yeah. I said, I'll just go hire your buddy Jalen down the street. He'll do it a lot cheaper than that. Right? But, you fast forward when Caleb was working from the couple of years in college, in the summers, he would do odd jobs. And he could go out and he could feel comfortable bidding a job because he knew how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was grateful that God gave that to me along the way because it helped him grow.
Absolutely. That's exactly how I'm self-employed and I bid jobs all the time. And it started when I was 14 years old. My brother-in-law's father came to me and said, hey, I want you to clear my fence line. How much would you charge me? And I was like, but he was a business owner. He was a paint contractor. And so he taught me how to do that. And I still think of that all the time. Mm-hmm. It's awesome when men come beside you. It's even better when it's your dad.
It was a cool experience. And I wish I could say, I knew that's what was going to happen, but God knew. Right, and God took that and he used it for good, and it was really great, and it's been a great thing, and obviously my son's still cleaning my leaves. But if you want to listen to some of the other topics that we talked about, go to masculinejourney.org, and you can pick up some of the past podcasts on New Name that we talked about today and a lot of other different things, but there's so many good things there, and also the upcoming boot camp, April 2nd, 2nd through 5th. Go register now.
Robbie Dillmore here, and the Truth Network podcasts have helped make MyPillow the company it is today. And now Mike Lindell, who, by the way, I've met and is a great guy, the inventor and CEO of MyPillow, wants to give back to our listeners. For the first time, you can get deep discounts on all MyPillow products if you go to MyPillow.com right now and click on the new radio listener specials. Who never thought that my dream job would be selling MyPillows? Maybe you're getting tired of these sleeping jokes, but you can get deep discounts on MyPillows, mattress toppers, bed sheets, and so much more. For example, the body pillow is regularly $89.99, but with a promo code GETTRUTH, it's only $29.99. Remember, all MyPillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. Just go to MyPillow.com and click on the new radio listener specials and get deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the body pillow for only $29.99. Enter promo code GETTRUTH or call 800-942-9613 for these great radio specials.
Hi, this is Sam with Masculine Journey. I'm here with my son Eli. We're going to talk about ways that you can help support the ministry. One way, you can go to smile.amazon.com. There's information on our website there on how to do that.
Then you can go to facebook.com where you can click the donate button, or you can go to masculinejourneyradio.org. Once again, look for the donate button.
Or if you want to mail something in, mail it to P.O. Box 550, Kernersville, North Carolina, 27285.
I am William Wallace. You've come to fight as free men, and free men you are. What will you do without freedom?
Find out from Jesus what you will do with that freedom. A 4-day adventure with God. It's a Masculine Journey Radio Boot Camp. Boot Camp is designed to give men permission to be what God designed them to be, passionate warriors for the kingdom. coming this April 2nd through the 5th. Register now at masculinejourney.org.
She was just walking down the street singing do-I-did-dum-did-dum, popping her fingers and shuffling her feet singing do-I-did-dum-did-dum. She looked good.
I just like the song. I could sit and listen to it. We'll let it finish.
Well, there's a lot of initiation going on right there.
There is.
That when you think about the movie that comes from.
Yeah, from Stripes.
Right? You know, those guys were not even close to a team until they went to boot camp.
Mm-hmm.
And learning to operate as a team is a big part of initiation that men got to go through. And as you often mention, that masculinity can only be bestowed by masculinity. And that's, you know, it's just critical to see, you know, men around your young men that you may have. Like, I was just really cool this Christmas. My son has 2 sons, and watching these two, you know, one of them's 2.5 and one of them's 1.5, and they're vying for their dad's attention. And I'm watching all this, you know, go on and to see, you know, they were getting that apple of the eye deal of being in dad's lap and what that looked like. And it's kind of cool when you understand really, wow, this is one of the most important relationships in the universe, that of a father and a son, and here is the, you know, ground zero, you know, right there when they're little bitty.
When we talk about this initiation, I think it's important to understand that a father's role is vital, but God does it often when a father's not in place. God uses other men in life, and even if the father is in place, other men are still critical, right? Because even when your kids know that you love them as well as you can, at some point it almost becomes expected.
Yeah.
Well, Dad loves me, so he's always going to tell me good things, right? Or they're going to be conditioned to kind of maybe not be able to hear some of that from you. So bringing these other men around you is important, isn't it, Darren?
Yeah, it is. I had the opportunity to do that with my son. I made sure I wasn't walking in this message back then, but I had read some good things from like Robert Lewis, Raising a Modern Day Knight, Stu Weber, Locking Arms, different things like that. And those guys stressed the importance of having good men around you that your boys could look up to and that your boys could spend time with. And so I actually went on a very purposeful mission when my son was about 12 or 13 years old to find good men in and around me that I could turn my son loose with, so that, you know, there were questions he wasn't going to bring to me that he would bring to one of those guys. There were things that he would not say to me that he might say to those guys. And to have safety in those men that my son could, you know, spend time with and literally do it without me around, you know, so that it's an even freer atmosphere. I do the same thing with my grandson. I'm raising my grandson. A week and a half, 2 weeks ago, Robbie, while I was in the hospital, Robbie took him hunting for the first time. I couldn't have done that. I don't have that experience. That's not in my tool shed. But it is in Robbie's. And you know, Carson thinks Robbie's a cool dude. I mean, he likes all of you guys, but Robbie's the guy that took him hunting, so he's cooler than y'all, you know.
Absolutely. Now, Andy, you have a clip that you have that kind of shows the power of other people,
right,
in a young boy's life, but also to help support the father.
Yep. So I'll let you give the background to This Is Us, the episode. I just found it when we were talking about this subject, and I thought it was really good. Go ahead and set up the...
If you haven't seen the TV show This Is Us, it's about a young couple. Well, it does a lot of flashbacks, but in the beginning of the story, there's a young couple was pregnant with triplets. They go in to have a delivery that day. One of the baby dies before it can be delivered, so they have 2. That same day, and they're a white family, that same day, a African-American baby was dropped off at a fire station that was born that day, and he was brought to the same hospital. And they took him in and began to raise him as their own son, and so they were raised as triplets.
Right.
right? And so there's that dynamic. But his name's Randall, and that's the boy that we're going to talk about in this clip.
Right, and so I didn't understand all that background. I didn't understand the family dynamics, but it really spoke to me just on the clip. You've got a leader, karate leader in a dojo that's getting ready to he's doing the initiation with the father. Well, really the son, and he has the son get on the father's back and do push-ups while he's doing this conversation. And like we said, there's commitments from all three involved, the son, the father, and the community about the initiation and the responsibility to grow the boy as a community.
What are we here to build, boys?
Father, Spirit, community.
The three pillars. Now, before we begin, we have a new member to initiate today. Randall, come over here. Fathers. Randall, how old are you, son?
9.
9 years old. Fine age. Do you think you have a good life?
Yeah, I think so.
Good. Good. I hope you always have a good life. But as you get older, you might start to find that things get harder. The world isn't always a kind place, especially for men like us. Take a look at the people on this mat. We are your community. When things get hard, we are going to be the ones who hold each other up. As Randall's father, you are his foundation. Come lie down, as if you're going to do a push-up. Randall, climb on your father's back. Jack, your back was built to carry your son through life. Are you willing to hold him up no matter what comes his way? Yes. Show him. Good. Now keep going. Are you willing to raise this young boy into a strong man? Yes, sir. Are you willing to push him to be the best man in the world he can be? Yes.
So, Andy, what was it about that clip? And it's an awesome clip, but what was it that really just spoke to your heart?
Boy, I wished I would have had something like that. I mean, my dad initiated me in a different way, but it wasn't with a community. It wasn't with, that much of a focus. It was more passive instead of an active initiation, but it was still, I think all of us long for that kind of thing. And for it to be more intentional than it actually happens, sometimes, like I say, it's just passive in how it happens. But you knew that son had been initiated that time, and it wasn't just the father and the son, but the community around it as well.
Yeah, one of the things that when you go to a boot camp, one of the talks that is done is sonship, having God as Father. And one of the exercises that a couple of us have done when we've done that talk is to spend some time with God and say, help me see the people you put in my life to help father me. And it's an amazing exercise to go through, is to see that. Jim, you talked about, being in Scouts.
Right.
But there was when I look back, there were a lot of good Scout leaders that helped father me during that time.
Oh, yeah. I had several.
And until you have that context and you can see that and say, oh, wow, God, that's what you were doing there. You were helping me understand the importance of leadership.
And older boys.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just the adult leaders.
Yeah, not just when they're playing pranks on me, but, also, to help me. They
Even
did.
that was an initiation.
My Boy Scout leader probably did one of the best things he could do. He put me in charge of the troop. And I was like, oh my gosh. But you know what? I grew so much in that year. I look back and I think, boy, he took a big risk. I can't remember what the title was at the time.
Senior Patrol Leader.
Senior Patrol Leader, yeah. And I was Senior Patrol Leader, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy hates me. I learned a lot about leadership because it was a lot different when you had to make your friends go do something they didn't want to go do. And I look back at the beginnings of that and just thank him for the leadership that gave me and the time to be able to do that. Guys, on this initiation of boys, it's important. Masculinity is bestowed. We did say that, but it doesn't mean that females don't have an important role to play. In a mother, pretty vital in that role as well.
Yeah. For Carson, my grandson, he had been a very insecure child before he came to live permanently with Sheila and I. And a few years ago, you would have not recognized him as the same kid that he is now. And a lot of that is Sheila. People think of me as being a type A personality and a guy that doesn't mind being on the radio or speaking publicly and all that. But Sheila is on TV and radio and speaks publicly all the time as well. And she's way smarter than I am. And so a few years ago, he wanted some prize that they were going to get if, the kids sold enough in school, right? Sold enough fundraiser stuff. Well, Sheila initiated Carson in the art of fundraising, which is a part of her job as well. And she literally took him out and took him to every house in Louisville, I think. I'm sorry, Louisville. And taught him and educated him and would stand back and listen to his presentation and then coach him up and do the whole 9 yards. And that boy got the prize that he was wanting, but to this day, he'll walk up to strangers on the street and open up a conversation with them, and they'll look at me and go, "Man, you are a phenomenal father or grandfather." And I'm like, "No, it was really his granny."
But I did get to see something pretty cool yesterday, and hopefully you're all right with me sharing this. Carson had something he wants to do when he gets back. He wants to build something. What was it that he wanted to build? It was a wood. He wanted to get a block of wood.
Yeah, he wants to build basically a snowboard. He wants to build a snowboard to pull behind our UTV.
Yeah, and your response to that and Sheila's response was drastically different.
Yeah, Sheila was like, no, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's cool, and Sheila's like, you're going to break a leg, and I'm like, yeah, okay.
That's how you learn.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
That's where some of that difference comes in. That the female is very important in that role, and she's a great help in that role. But really, the boy has to learn certain things he can only get from the man. And that's important. And that doesn't have to be the dad. If the dad's not there, it can be grandpa. Very often it is grandpa. It can be uncle. It can be friend. It can be stepdad. It can be all these different places, right? It could be somebody in your Sunday school class that God calls you to say, hey, speak love and speak life into them, right? You never know what those words are going to go do. What I do know is it makes a huge difference in the lives and just being available. So I'd ask you this week to pray and say, God, who are you calling me to help initiate? And what's that role that you have for me to play, right? And if it's not your kid, you might want to speak to their parents about it. but go speak to God first. Thanks for listening, and join us next week as we talk about initiating girls.